I remember speaking to a group of women once, and we did like a mini questionnaire. What's the number one trait that you are frustrated with around men? And it was that they don't seek to understand, they seek to be right.
Yeah. I mean, I say even more than that, what we need is people who are listening so hard that they might change their mind. So if we had leaders who were willing to listen, and then in the light of what I've heard from you, I now see things a bit differently. Imagine what a different world we will live in, as opposed to I'm listening to you, and so that I can tell you all the ways you're wrong. Oh, now I get why you're an idiot. Here's some things that you need to understand, and then we get conflict, black and white, right and wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. You know, polarization of society, rather than okay, interesting. I hadn't understood that before. I hadn't seen that before. I might have to change what I think about something. It would change the world.
Before we get into the podcast, I'd like to say a big thank you to our Season 3 sponsors, Lightside Financial Planning. They're a Liverpool-based company, fiercely independent and dedicated to making money conversations easy to navigate. If you'd like a conversation with one of their friendly team members, there's a link to their website in the show notes.
So welcome to this episode of the Dare to Be Different podcast. I'm really excited today to interview this incredible woman next to me who's in her 4th decade of really moving and transforming within the leadership space, especially the corporate leadership space. Her name is Blaire Palmer. And she is a leadership coach and consultant, a keynote speaker, and the author of 4 books. And she's pioneering change within the world of corporate leadership. And this is her latest book, Punks in Suits, which is an incredible read that looks at how leadership is changing and how really we have no choice but to change. Blaire, it's great to meet you. We just had a coffee when I was researching suitable women for this podcast, because I do want to speak to women and I do want women's opinion on how men in leadership must change. It's really, really important to the narrative of male leadership. I know that you are rooting for men in those positions to change, and that comes through. So it's a really pleasure to see you today. Tell us a little bit about your leadership journey, just to kind of break the ice and get into things.
Yeah. So I didn't start in HR or anything like that. I was a journalist working for a big national broadcaster. And I didn't know anything about organizational culture or leadership. I just knew you have to work hard. You have to make massive sacrifices. You have to show that you're keen. When I got my first proper job as a journalist, my dad said, now you have to make yourself indispensable. And that was the rule. You go and you show them that they cannot do without you. And you tolerate whatever is thrown at you, and you just have to look like you're loving it and you're up for anything. And I did that. And I did that for nearly 10 years. But a couple of things happened. Firstly, I became quite disillusioned with the news and with the way that the news is created. But I also found the culture just intolerable. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night over and over again, sort of sitting bolt upright in bed, as if there was a hole in my body. You know, in a cartoon when there's a cannonball goes through and you can see right through it. It felt like that. And I felt I'm empty. Something's missing. And I was very fortunate because at about that time I met a someone who was a life coach. That was a new profession at the time, late 90s. We had her on the show that I was producing, and a few months down the line, I contacted her and I said, would you be my coach? And would you help me leave this place?
Great. So that took you on your journey as a leadership coach and a consultant.
Yeah, and it started off with life coaching, but I very quickly got kind of bored with all my clients just wanted to know how to keep a boyfriend. It just seemed a bit meaningless to me.
Yeah.
But I accidentally got a leader as a client, met somebody through somebody, and I just loved working with him. You know, as you know, with coaching, it's not so much what happens in the session, it's what happens between sessions that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And if he made a decision in a session with me, the next time we spoke, he'd have done it. And we'd be talking about how did it go and what would he do differently next. So we'd be able to move forward. There was momentum.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want more people like this. So I dived into the leadership side. I read loads of books. I subscribed to magazines.
Yeah.
I went on courses. And over what is now 25 years, have developed, obviously, a lot of ideas based on working with real leaders and their teams and helping organizations to create a leadership culture that, as I put it, liberates the talent of their amazing people.
Great. So we're going to dig in at some point into, male leadership, bad examples, good examples, what you've seen over the last 30 odd years, what's changing, advice you may have for senior male leaders. Not that women are not in leadership positions, of course they are. And we both know that men and women need to come into union. And we both know that women are an essential component of leadership and an essential component of helping men to fulfill more leadership potential. Yeah. So the main reason I want to focus more on men is because you and I know that men still dominate the space.
Yeah.
And, they need to change.
Yeah.
We need to create a lasting change into the future. Now, part of my background is in professional sports, especially professional rugby. And I am seeing change. Yeah. I still work a little bit in that field. Most of my one-on-one clients are CEOs, we've got teams, but I still do a little bit in the rugby world and I see what's going on. And it's amazing to see the leaders at the top changing.
Yeah.
Stepping into more presence, stepping into more flow, understanding emotions and the vocabulary of emotions a little bit more, taking radical accountability, pointing the finger at themselves and treating the environment as a family where employees get a sense of belonging. It's so beautiful because I never saw that before in rugby when I started. Before we get digging deep, just a general question. Is there a shift happening in the corporate space around male leadership?
I think so. I think that we are changing our idea of what a leader looks like. We have had, and of course, not universally, we still have plenty of leaders that conform to this stereotype. But, we have had a very narrow idea of what a leader is. Normally an extrovert. Normally someone very articulate who can stand up in front and rally people, does not show emotion. Although if they do show emotion, it's a macho aggressive kind of emotion, but there's no room for feelings in a sense. Quite directive. Someone with vision, a big personality typically.
Yeah.
And what that has meant is that not only does that not leave room for women, because there are women like that, of course, but that's not the way that a lot of women see themselves.
Yeah.
It also doesn't leave space for a lot of men,
of course,
who also don't see themselves like that, and have had to kind of pretzel themselves into a very weird shape in order to be that, maybe to such an extent that they don't even realize themselves that is not who they really are, that they are wearing a mask, and that they are forcing themselves. And of course, the consequence, when you have to operate year after year, decade after decade, outside of your preferred style, then that has huge impact on your mental well-being and your health. And we see that. We see huge levels of burnout and mental distress, emotional distress, health issues. If people were so comfortable in those roles, we would not see that.
Yeah, there's an identity crisis that happens, isn't there?
For sure. So I think slowly we are starting to see different role models, starting to see some political leaders in some countries who are demonstrating something different.
Yeah.
In sport, for sure. And I think sport has really led the way in talking about therapy and meditation and having and recovery time and all of these sorts of things. If I'd have said to my
family, the concept of family,
work-life balance and the priority of family, and calling out these stereotypes.
Yeah.
You know, I think sport does lead the way, and that's great because a lot of men do look to sport for an indication of how they're allowed to be, and I think that's great.
No, I believe when someone judges whether someone is a good leader or not, I believe the essence of that is trust. You know, whether we actually trust them.
Yeah.
We trust that they will say what they're going to do. We trust their vision. We trust how they make us feel. We trust their presence, awareness. We trust their energy. We trust that they can hold our emotions instead of invalidating them, and so on and so on. So there's a huge piece around trust there, which is a cornerstone of whether we judge someone to lead or not. Looking back in your leadership career, maybe give recent examples, but I'm telling myself that there was more negative examples way back. What is it about male leaders that, as a woman, would lead you to not trust them and therefore close down, not open up, and just crack on with your work without rocking the boat? What is it about a male leader that leads you to not trust them?
So I've seen lots of examples of that, both my own experience as an employee, when I was an employee, and of course more through this work that I've done. You know, when you're working with a senior team, you haven't handpicked. I mean, when it comes to my coaching clients, I've sort of handpicked them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to you're working with a team, you haven't handpicked everyone, so you're going to be dealing with a whole variety of people. And I think that one of the things that breaks your trust in them is that they clearly don't trust you.
Yeah.
And I heard so trust is massive. I speak about it in my keynotes. It's my number one bit of advice for audiences. It's all over the book, so it's brilliant that you brought it out. So being trustworthy is part of that. You know, are you a person who knows what they stand for and then stands for it? But equally, are you willing to trust? And I think a lot of leaders say they trust, but it's conditional. So, I trust this person because they never let me down. But I don't trust this person because sometimes they make mistakes. Well, that's not trust. Trust is a faith in the unknown.
Yeah.
It's not trust if you know that this person's going to deliver. So
that's control, isn't it?
That's control.
Yeah.
I mean, that. There's no trust required.
Yeah.
And actually, what I think is more important is to trust two things. The first is that people's intent is almost always positive. People are trying to do the best they can. And I think we've inherited this kind of Victorian idea that most people are trying to take advantage, take you for a ride, get away with something. It's not true. Most people want to do a good job. Most people don't want to embarrass themselves. They don't want to let their colleagues down. They don't want to let the customer down. They're trying. The way that they're going about that might not work out, but their intent is positive.
Yeah.
And also, most people are trying to tell you their truth. Again, they may see things differently, might be different to your truth, but they have a valid perspective. And so when I felt distrusted and disengaged, it's because I'm being constantly judged by the outcome, regardless of whether I could have done anything about that outcome or not. There's a story that I tell quite frequently because I just love this story. When I was at this organization and I was producing this news show, and I couldn't get anyone on to come on the air because the story wasn't true, and so no one would come on the air to talk about that particular story. And I went to see my editor and I said, I don't have anyone to talk about this story because they're telling me it's not true and they won't come on. And he stuck a Post-it to my back, and the Post-it said, "I'm Satan's mistress." And he told me not to take the Post-it off until I'd found a guest to talk about that story.
Wow.
And I sat at my desk in the newsroom with a Post-it on my back. That was the environment. So I was judged on, no, the story isn't true, Craig. So we, as this big national broadcaster, are going to, one way or the other, find someone who'll come and talk about this story as if it is true.
Yeah.
It's not true. So we're perpetuating this distrust in the media and distrust in news. And get some hired hand who will come on the air and talk about anything because they just love being on the air. And if I can't convince someone to do that, then I'm the problem. And I have to sit there with a Post-it on my back.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good example of bad leadership.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What are 3 traits of a male leader that is lacking awareness and maturity in your eyes?
The first thing that comes to mind is a leader who believes that they can leave their emotion out of it. They can't. They're not.
What are the consequences if a leader can't feel for you?
Well, they are feeling. They just don't know that they're feeling. And they don't know that what they're feeling is influencing their behavior or their decisions. So another brilliant example of this was a team that I was working with, and they needed to restructure their organization. And they did it in a very scientific way where they said, the new structure needs to meet these criteria. And here are the options for the different structure. And we spent a good couple of days going through the options. There was a clear structure that was better than any of the others and better than the structure they had. And this one guy who was on the board had said to me at the beginning of the day, I don't care what the outcome is, in the sense that I leave my emotions at the door when I come into work. Okay, fine. So you say, all right, let's see. He did not like the outcome of this process, and he wanted to go back and do the process again. He didn't think it could be right. And what turned out eventually was he thought in the new structure his team would be smaller than it was in the old structure. And that is why he didn't like the new structure.
Right.
So a person who had said, I leave my emotions at the door, had gone through a scientific process, and his emotions were all over that. He felt it would diminish his status.
Of course.
As it turned out, and as he realized, his team was actually going to be bigger. And then all of a sudden he was swayed by this.
Right.
Actually, maybe you've got a point. So complete ignorance of the way that emotion was impacting. So I would say that is the first trait. I would say the second is, and it seems to conflict with that, but the leader themselves wouldn't see the conflict, is very quick to anger.
Yeah.
And allowing anger to be a part of their leadership style. Yeah. And I've seen leaders, and I'm sure you have as well, throwing things across a desk and thumping the desk and swearing. Yeah. In one case, chasing somebody out of the room. And of course, people were terrified to go and present to the board because that might happen if they said the wrong thing or, spoke back in some way.
For me, that's a prime example of a very dysregulated nervous system. If someone is dysregulated, they're living in subtle fight or flight. Yeah. They're living in a perception of permanent threat, and they have no choice as a leader then. They're just running off patterns, reactive patterns, and that are fueled by, as you've just said, anger and frustration. Yeah.
You asked for 3. This one is going to sound strange. A leader who tells you, people are my most important asset. I I have learnt not to trust that
Interesting.
when it's one of the very first things that they tell me. Because, I mean, firstly, everyone says it, right? So, but we know that most people do not feel valued in their organization, and that engagement scores are always terribly low, and people don't trust. So we know that can't be true, regardless of the fact that most leaders will say it. So that makes me skeptical. But also, every leader that I've ever heard say to me, I do this work because of the people, unless sometimes I get a vibe that they just genuinely care. That's different. You know, I don't want to let my colleagues down, or I just love the people that I work with. That's different. But when someone comes out with this very cliched, people are our number one asset, I think, no, they're not. It's probably money. It's probably making money for the company, or making money for the shareholders, of which you are probably one.
Yeah.
It's power, influence, the some of the accoutrement. You know, you get to go to watch the rugby in a box. You know, it's that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not really about your people.
Yeah. So that's a red flag for you.
Yeah. Certainly enough to make me just pause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you, if a CEO approaches you and he wants you to coach him, because he realizes he's been conditioned by life to be stoic, structured, directional, process-driven, at the expense of everything else, which is the slowness, the sensitiveness, the connection piece, the presence piece, the listening piece, the emotional piece. But he says, "Look, I want to change, but I don't know how to do it." Would you guide him? How do you guide that man into that other realm of leadership?
I want to start with the why of that. You know, I think you can say all that, and you can really want that, but this is not going to be an easy journey. So you have to be compelled by something very powerful.
What if it's me and I say to you, my marriage is on the edge of divorce, I've got 4 kids, I know at home I could be so much better relationally, I know there's no separation when I come to work, I'm the same, this is bigger than me, I don't want to lose my wife and kids, I feel quite emotional, can you help me?
Yeah. So I would say yes to that, or I will partner with you on this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I can help, but I will partner with you on this. But then there's a few things I would want them to do. So I would want them to connect with what's at stake, really. Not just the words, but really. You know, what's down the road for them? How are they living? How are they existing?
Yeah.
In a year, 2, 5, 10 years? What is because it's all very well to talk about what you want to be, but that is never as powerful as what you don't want to be. As what you're afraid
I hear
of.
you. And what are the consequences?
Yeah.
If you don't change.
That's right. And if you don't change, that is a one-way street.
Yeah.
So I really want them to connect with that. And if they, it's not easy to do, and they're probably going to say all the right things, but it doesn't matter what they say. It's are they really connecting with that future version of them that has lost everything that is important to them, and how are they living then, and how are they feeling, and you know, what are their regrets, and kind of stepping into the shoes of the future them.
Yeah.
And also stepping into the shoes of the future them if they do something about this. What could it be? And having almost those two versions of themselves really, really present in their minds. So they've gotten away from motivation as well as a towards. I've never found the towards enough on its own.
Yeah.
And I've never found a vague, I don't want to lose my family. Because that was true 6 months ago as well.
Yeah, of course.
Why didn't you do this 6 months ago?
Yeah.
Something still hasn't connected that means that tomorrow morning you're going to do something different to what you've been doing for the last 6 months or the last 10 years.
Yeah. I've got a question for you that's just come through me. I mean, I'm not looking for a specific answer, but the topic's interesting for me, and it's going to be a chapter also in my new book. So
Right.
one of the chapters in my new book is going to be, are our leaders traumatized?
God, that's
You know, quite a number of male clients that come to me were sent to boarding school. You know, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of age. You know, that they're severed from safety, they're severed from the loving, bonding attachments, sent to a boarding school and have to survive, basically. They have to survive, they're on high alert, they're on fight or flight, and then they're taught that have to work, and they have to work, and more is better, and they have to be quick and fast and dynamic and get the best grades. And from a very early age, they're taught to live in survival. And those same clients, they can't switch off. And I read a stat, I can't remember what it was exactly, but there's a high percentage of leaders in the main corporational industries who went to boarding school, who spent a long time in boarding school. I guess the first question is that a factor? Are some of our leaders traumatized? And how can we help those leaders when we live in a world where society projects so much greatness onto them and they can't even make a mistake or admit any weakness?
Yeah.
You know, how do we move in the direction of helping those traumatized leaders?
Yeah. God, that's so interesting. I can't wait to read that book.
Yeah, there's a documentary you should watch as well, and my friend produced it. It's called Boarding on Insanity.
Okay.
And the strapline is, Are our leaders traumatized?
Yeah. I mean, for sure, some of them reveal those stories to me. And the way it comes out is that we're talking about their rule book. We're talking about what is true for them about the world and about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And what they talk about is as if it's a fact. Well, people are out to get you. You can't trust anybody. No one cares about you. I'm not good enough, and I'm always trying to prove that I deserve to be here. Whatever it is that they're saying about themselves or about people like me, don't get to do things like that, whatever it is. We do a lot of work on that, and I do that work with groups as well, which is fascinating, where you get people to write these things down and put them on the wall. And of course, we're all carrying these rules with us that we believe are true, and then we operate.
And we didn't choose them.
We didn't choose them, and we created them when we were too young to know that they were just the way we understood the world at 3 or 4 or 5, normally before we were 10.
Yeah.
Or they came from society, reinforced by society, or from our families, or from a traumatic experience or a series of experiences that combined to end up being quite traumatic.
Yeah.
And so those become our rules, and we operate as if those rules are true. And by the way, there are rules that we think of course, about being a man, about being a woman, about relationships, about being a leader, about being the boss, about how you have to be at work, about who you're allowed to be at work, who you're allowed to be in relationships, your attitudes towards money, what's important and what isn't important. All of these things are rules that we've invented. And those rules, then you make decisions and have an emotional reaction based on that being true.
Based on the beliefs.
Yeah. So, actually, I've heard you talk about this, about the road rage, right?
Yeah.
So you're in the car and someone cuts you up, and the automatic response is to swear at the guy, give him the finger, and be furious, but also slightly self-righteous. Because what an idiot he is! I would never do that. Meanwhile, 5 minutes later, you're doing it, but I mean, that was different because you didn't have a choice and whatever. So it makes you who you are. But you can choose to change those because there's no truth in them. They're just invented.
Yeah.
And when you realize that I could choose a different rule and it would be as true, because the first one wasn't true anyway. And then I could make a decision as if the new rule was true.
Yeah.
Or I could behave in a way that the new rule is true. Then all of a sudden you realize I just get to choose. Every moment I get to choose. It's hugely liberating. But if you're not open to that, if you are entrenched in this is how it is, and of course you've got tons of evidence because you've been gathering evidence to be right about this.
Yeah, of course.
Because what we want more than anything is to be right.
It's to be right, yeah. Yeah.
As soon as someone says, what if it's just a belief, then that makes you wrong. And people find that really hard.
I remember speaking to a group of women once, and we did like a mini questionnaire. What's the number one trait that you are frustrated with around men? And it was that they don't seek to understand, they seek to be right.
Yeah. I mean, I say even more than that, what we need is people who are listening so hard that they might change their mind. So if we had leaders who were willing to listen, and then in the light of what I've heard from you, I now see things a bit differently. Imagine what a different world we will live in, as opposed to I'm listening to you, and so that I can tell you all the ways you're wrong. Oh, now I get why you're an idiot. Here's some things that you need to understand, and then we get conflict, black and white, right and wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. You know, polarization of society. Rather than okay, interesting. I hadn't understood that before. I hadn't seen that before. I might have to change what I think about something. It would change the world.
Yeah, for sure. And there's some building blocks before a leader can sit in a space of authentic listening, isn't there? You know, he has to cultivate a sense of presence.
Yeah.
There's a self-awareness piece in that. There's a big journey around their life history and what shaped them, and there's also a physical part of that, somatic part of that, where a guy has to really actually be in touch with his body.
Yeah.
You know, he has to be in touch with his body. He has to know how to redirect his attention into his body in order for him not to be in his head, so he can listen with you with full presence. It's I think the presence piece within leadership is huge.
Yeah.
You know, it's absolutely huge. Leaders need to know what shaped them, who they are, who they want to be, how they're going to redefine themselves, but they also need to really feel more at home in their bodies so they can be present in their bodies.
Yeah. And we are completely disconnected, really, from our bodies.
Yeah.
You know, for most of my life, I felt like my body was just the machine that carried my brain around, and my heart, maybe.
Yeah.
But, you know, the body itself wasn't that useful to me because I'm not sporty or whatever. So it just gets my brain from one place to another.
And the body was cut off from most leadership books until the last 10 years, right?
Yeah. I mean, all the MBAs and all of that, there was the making leadership into this science that is an intellectual pursuit. And then we started to understand that actually we did need emotional intelligence.
But even a lot of the early emotional intelligence books were written in a logical way.
That's right, with science. Science says, you know. But actually the body, so what I find really interesting is people say, oh, I love getting feedback. I'm not one of those people. I don't like getting feedback.
Yeah.
So what happens to me is someone gives me feedback. I do not want to hear this. It is confronting.
Yeah.
But what I notice is this rising feeling, tension in my stomach, bubbles, tightness, rising up into my chest. I notice my breathing changes. I notice I get kind of a cold sweat going, right? The old reaction to that was a reaction, which was, I don't want to hear this. You're wrong. I didn't ask for feedback. Don't tell me how to do what I'm doing. I know more about this than you. That's the initial reaction. Or, even better, well, you should, you know, you criticizing me. Well, you should look at
flip it back.
Pushing it back. Now, I recognize that feeling. I acknowledge, I don't like this feeling. But the question I want to ask is, okay, tell me more. So it indicates a different response to me. Same with stage fright.
Yeah.
I'm a keynote speaker. I speak for a living. I used to stand on the side of the stage while they were introducing me and feel I couldn't swallow. My mouth is all filling up with water. I'm going to drown, in my own spit. My heart is racing. Now, if I feel that, I'm like, oh, hello, welcome.
Yeah.
We're excited, going to go on stage. I look out into because I can normally see people. I'm only standing on the side. I catch a few people by the eye. I don't listen to this big build up because that's just going to freak me out.
Yeah.
I look at people. I smile at a few people. I hear, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Blaire Palmer. And I just walk on.
Yeah.
Different interpretation of the same physical reaction.
Well, you're forming a relationship with your feelings, aren't you? Instead of flicking them off or wishing they didn't exist.
Yeah. But you have to be aware of those physical sensations.
For sure.
And then how you're typically going to react. And then you choose to interpret them differently, tell a different story about them, and therefore you react differently to them.
Yeah. Feedback's such an interesting topic in the world of leadership, isn't it? And unfortunately, when we hear the word feedback, it takes us right back into our childhood and how we were given feedback, how we received feedback, how we were able to or not to have an opinion. And it's so interesting for me to watch how people receive feedback and give feedback. But for me, we do have a responsibility as leaders to make the environment as safe as possible when we want to share some information with another person about how they are within themselves, how they're performing in work. Like, for example, if you were an employee of mine, how different would this be for you if I said, Blaire, would you like to have a coffee right now, love? You feel different, right? And then I said to you, are you okay if I ask you some questions about the last quarter? What do you think you've done amazingly well over the last few weeks, last few months? What else? Tell me more.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask you, where do you think you've underperformed?
Yeah.
Where else? And then I say, where's your focus for the next 6 weeks? And then at the end of that, I say, can I give you my opinion now? It's so different, right?
Completely. And that what you're doing all the time, what you should be doing is investing in this kind of trust bank account.
Yeah.
The being called to your boss's office is like being called to the headmaster's office, right? That's what kicks off what have I done wrong. It's the inevitable, and leaders know that that's what's going to happen.
I heard you speak about that in your videos.
Yeah, so they know. Oh, I can't. I want it to be different, but as soon as I say come and see me, it is like come and see the head teacher.
Yeah.
But if they've invested in the relationships already, then they're already in credit. The trust bank account is in credit. And then if they do have to say, this hasn't been your best week, has it? Then you go, I know, it has not. But there's also something about, so having those conversations, and then the leader also being willing to say, what do you need from me? Am I part of what you're finding difficult? What could I do differently? And being willing, or even just the meeting being about that.
Yeah.
And sometimes leaders are really surprised that they're allowed to ask, how is my leadership working for you?
Yeah.
But of course they're allowed.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so important.
That's right. But there's also something about how we're measuring performance. So some of those meetings are about, like, for instance, you had a bad week last week, you lost that contract. Well, was that necessarily a bad week?
Yeah.
So there's an argument to say, well, there was nothing you could have done about that. So in actual fact, as a leader, what you might be interested in is, do you think you could have done anything differently? But equally, did we only keep it for as long as we did because you were doing brilliantly? Like, would anyone else have lost the contract 6 months ago? Maybe losing the contract now is a win.
Yeah.
Could have been so much worse.
Of course.
Right. So that curiosity about not just looking at everything from an outcome perspective. You lost the deal. You've obviously lost your touch. What actually happened? Is this really a win in disguise? And the same thing sometimes with a win. We won the contract. Yeah, but was it a bit of an accident? Was it just a lucky circumstance? Or was it something that someone did? Could you replicate it? And treating both of those things with curiosity as opposed to taking the win with no cynicism and always treating the loss like it is a failure of personality or skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of work with corporate organisations. I know you've got a thriving consultancy business, and obviously the workplace is changing, isn't it? I've heard you speak a lot about that now. It's changing. Leaders need to be adaptable. The goalposts are continually changing. So let's take a corporate company at the moment, right? Who've got a number of employees working for them. What are those employees looking for from their leaders in today's corporate workspace?
Well, I think they're looking for something that they might not be able to get, which is assurance and certainty. And the problem is that most leaders are good people, and they want to offer that. They want to say, it's all going to be fine. That's not true. And in fact, even the employees know when they're told, it's all going to be fine, it's all going to work out great, they know they're being lied to. So although they're seeking certainty, they don't really trust it when they get it.
Yeah.
With good reason, because the world is moving too fast. You just can't guarantee it's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
So I think what they're looking for is to be told the truth.
So truth, yeah.
Yeah, to be told the truth, to be treated like adults who can handle the truth.
Yeah.
Of course, with respect and sensitivity and in the light of actual information. They want access to the information. They don't just want to be told without context. And they want to be kept up to date with that information and what it might mean so they can make preparations or they can adapt how they feel. One of the things that I sometimes say is that an organization is like a train going through a tunnel, right? And the people at the top of the organization are at the front of the train, and the employees are further back. And so the people at the front, they do go into the darkness first of the tunnel, but they also come out into the light first. And the people that are further back are just going into the darkness when these ones will come out into the light. And so you might be, as the leader, feeling pretty good. You've got to acknowledge that your people only getting this information now. You had it 6 months ago. You've had time to process. You've had time to work out what it means for you and what it means for the organization. You can't expect them to just be where you are. So there's this kind of honesty and empathy and acknowledging where people are and what they need. So I think that's one of the things that employees are looking for. I think the second thing that, and therefore being treated as adults, right?
Yeah.
Because they're outside of work, they're handling their own business. So why wouldn't they be able to handle it at work? I think the second thing they're looking for is employees want to feel that they're making a difference. You know, they are making sacrifices. They are making compromises. They're working long hours. They're giving their heart and soul to this thing. They're neglecting their health, their family, whatever it might be. For what? If they don't feel that they've made any impact, they've just been busy, just been in meetings. Nothing's actually changed. They can't see any benefit. And of course, they're going to be disillusioned. So they want to know, what is it that I do that actually makes a difference? And if it's not making a difference, why am I wasting my time on it? Surely I should be doing something that moves the dial. So I think that they're also looking for that.
So they need connection and the right type of feedback on a regular basis, right?
And to not waste their time doing stuff that doesn't make a difference, which is a lot of how people spend their time. They know that, sitting in a meeting. doing your shopping list under the desk because you don't need to be there, but somehow you're expected to be there. And if you're not there, it looks like you're not committed. You know, this is such a waste of time. All the reports that get written and pushed up and down the organization, you know, why do I need my boss to see this? I should be able to make the decision. I'm the one with the expertise. So all of that is very disempowering.
I remember once in one of my coaching roles with a rugby team, and I think we'd gone to this corporate company to share ideas, and they were telling us about 360s, and we tried it a few times. But I remember the following season, we had such a good connection with all the players and staff that feedback became the norm. It was done effortlessly.
Yeah.
We didn't need a 360 at the end of the year.
No.
You know?
No, absolutely. And what a waste of time. Because
Waste
when
of time,
you
isn't
find
it?
out after a year that there's something you could have been doing differently,
Oh, 100%.
that's awful, isn't it? Yeah, these relationships, these authentic human connections.
Yeah.
I think, you know, that's probably one of the other things. They want to feel like they're treated like a human and that they have human relationships with people all, regardless of the hierarchy, that they see the real person, because that's absolutely where that sense of, you know, what motivates me to do the work that I do is we spend a huge amount of our time working, more than pretty much anything else.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah.
more than sleeping.
Yeah, of course.
And so what a terrible tragedy if it hurts us, if it's meaningless, if
I
it
hear you.
causes distress.
Yeah.
So I care that businesses are successful because I care that they continue to exist to provide the services and the money goes around and the people, you know, have a job and all this thing. But I'm not motivated by a company making money. I'm motivated by people are rocking up to this place, or they're logging in every day. Let's make it mean something.
I hear you completely.
Yeah. I think that's all people want, really. And regardless of the job, right? This isn't, oh, well, it's all very well to say, but, you know, someone who's an Amazon driver or someone, you know, who, you know, cleans the streets or whatever, they're not going to get meaning. Why not? It's not about changing the world. It's about feeling like you are valued, that you're treated with respect, that you can provide for your family, that you've got good mates. These things, regardless of the nature of the work.
Yeah. As I listen to you, I'm feeling into the safety and the connection piece, and I would argue that in today's world, employees are looking for safety and connection more than ever before. And when I pull it back again to male leaders, and this is biased by the way I work with my clients, it's all related to a male leader's capacity to feel his emotions. Because presence and a healthy relationship with one's emotions as a man is the medicine of connection. If a man has a poor relationship with his emotions, he ain't going to connect with his staff. He's going to lock himself away in his office. He's going to be on his laptop. So for me, it has to be, for men especially, an inner journey, an inner somatic embodied journey into their emotions, whether that's through nature or martial arts or breath work or movement or dance or psychotherapy or some kind of somatic therapy, or just learning to be with what arises in the body over a period of time. It's so critical. It's not about listening to more podcasts and reading more executive coaching books and leadership books. It really is about, and I don't mind saying this on a podcast, even though we're talking about leadership, it's about us all, but I am going to say men here, learning to be really, really tender with what is arising moment to moment within their bodies.
God, I love that. I love that. And I always say that leadership development is personal development. It's not, management is its own thing. Maybe that's about techniques or whatever. Leadership isn't about techniques.
Yeah.
Leadership is exactly as you say. You can only be a more sophisticated leader by being a more enlightened person. And that is the inner work of self.
Yeah.
And consequently, you know, that requires time. It can't be the thing that you do I mean, what you're describing doesn't fit into a typical job working day. And
No.
and these guys are working extreme jobs. You know,
Yeah.
they're doing 60, 70 hours a week, maybe more,
Yeah.
flying in and out to this place and that place, away from their family for days or weeks at a time. And even when they are home, they're up in their office or whatever, and they might join for a bit of dinner while they've still got, you know, their phone in hand. So they're doing these extreme jobs. Where is the space for that?
Yeah.
And to say, oh, you need to get up at 4 o'clock for your meditation practice
Yeah.
and to feel the grass beneath, it's
Yeah.
just not realistic.
No.
So then that forces actually a leader, and this is one of the reasons that we need these guys to do it. It forces them to say, if I can't find, and I'm supposed to be in charge around here, if I can't find the space for this deep work in a typical day, then how on earth is anyone else in this organization able to do
Yeah.
it? We are, you know, we talked about this earlier, but over our coffee earlier, but you know, we used to kill people at work because jobs were dangerous.
Yeah.
Construction sites were dangerous, manufacturing was dangerous, factories were dangerous. And then companies realized costing them a lot of money. It's bad for their reputation. So they made it safer. And now companies are very proud of their safety record and people going home at the end of the day alive and uninjured. We are still killing people.
Yeah.
We're just doing it more slowly. We're killing them over decades now. And we're doing it because we're not allowing them to be human, and we are not creating a humane way of working. And it should be possible now because we have AI.
Of course.
So we can take out a lot of the repetitive, drone, meaningless stuff, which should create space. And instead of saying we don't need our people anymore, we say now we can have them look after themselves in their working hours. Why should I have to go to the gym at 5 a.m? Why can't I go to the gym the first couple of hours of the work?
Yeah. Of course.
Because that's helping me to be a better performer at work. Why can't I take the afternoon off if I'm feeling burnt out without having to take it off, without having to take it as leave or mental health break or anything, duvet day? But I just feel like this afternoon I need to go and sit quietly and reflect on what's going on for me. I've got a big meeting tomorrow and I want to be really, really present, and I need to do some work on myself today so that I can walk in there in the mindset that I really want to bring to that interaction. That's going to take me 3 hours today.
Yeah.
But what difference, you know, that means that person walks into that meeting, instead of just coming from another meeting all frazzled and, oh my God, what's just happened? And now I'm bringing that energy into this. They come in present.
Present
They
and
come
regulated.
in able to listen. They come in able to co-create and be innovative and to change their mind.
Yeah.
And then you get a better decision. And then that decision makes more money for the business.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to name names because I know there's probably confidentiality associated with what you do, but are there any, I almost said organisations then, but you and I know that the success of an organisation based on our language is dependent on the leaders in the organisation. You know, people don't leave organisations, they leave leaders.
Yeah.
Are there any leaders within organisations that you're working with right now who are movers and shakers, who are really doing something different, something radical that's potentially changing the face of corporate leadership?
Yeah, there are. So there are organizations that, a couple of leaders I'm thinking of, who have changed their business structure from hierarchical to self-managing. And it's not so much that the organization is now self-managing, although that's a whole interesting topic for a different kind of podcast. But what it means is that they have let go of the status thing. They are now working, they might have a distinct role within the business, but it's not a superior role. It's not a role of authority over others. It's a bunch of human beings working together, bring different qualities and skills and expertise. And I remember talking to the founder of one of those businesses. It had been hierarchical and he had run it that way for quite a long time, and then we had a breakdown actually, and he decided to change it. And I said, has it been what you expected? And he said, no, it's been much harder, but what's been harder is the emotional development that's required. We didn't realize. We thought that we would just it just worked better. And what we realized was we were completely unready for all the stuff that would come up, and how we would keep being pulled back into wanting to be in charge. Yeah. And the others would look to me to be the decision maker, and I would have to, sometimes I would accidentally make the decision when it wasn't mine to make, because that was habit. So that the journey of growth happening after the decision was made to go self-managing rather than before. So those are some great leaders. And then there are some leaders that I know that actually work in really quite conventional organizations. They haven't changed anything fundamental like that, but they over the years have just brought more and more of themselves to the role. They are more vulnerable. They are less self-assured. They are more aware, and they communicate their shadow side. So in this circumstance, they might say something like, when this happens, I'm not normally at my best. So if you see this behavior, please will you let me know, because these sorts of situations do tend to trigger that, and it's really helpful to get that feedback.
So they're courageous.
Really brave to share, I am still working on it, and I will make mistakes, and I need support and help, and equally, how can I?
So even within that, we've got courage, radical accountability, radical truth.
Yeah, and just doing the work, just never thinking to yourself, I think I've got this now. Yeah, because the second you think that, you become complacent. That's just a new rule book, and now you're just operating from I've done the work. This is the other thing that I sometimes am cynical about when someone says, oh yeah, I'm very self-aware.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that what you mean to say is that you're working on that, because it's never done, is it? We're just all unpeeling the onion constantly.
Are you able to, we're kind of coming towards the end, but are you able to locate in your mind one of the greatest male leaders you've ever had the chance to be led by or work with, and tell us what it was about that man that led you to believe he was a great leader?
So I'm going to talk about someone very early on in my broadcasting career.
I remember you talking about him earlier.
Yeah. I don't know how he would stack up these days, because I was really young and naive, and I didn't have many examples then. But this was a guy, it's when I worked in local radio. He was the station manager. And this was the early 90s. So a lot of the stuff that we're talking about now just wasn't, people just didn't do it. They didn't do self-development. They didn't meditate. They didn't talk about emotions, none of that.
Yeah.
But he would go on courses, leadership courses and self-development courses, and then he would come back and he would tell us about them. And he would try to implement what he had learned. And it was probably a bit rough and ready, as it is, when you've just learned something new and you're like, I'm going to try this thing on you. But we really appreciated it. We appreciated that he was doing something that at the time was really counter-cultural. He was already station manager. He was already in charge. He had no reason. He wasn't going to go and do anything else. This was the job he wanted. And in fact, I think he passed away a few years after I left there in that role. That was his achievement. But he just never stopped being curious about how he could be better. And I loved him for that. And when that was local radio, when I then went to network radio, I knew I'm going to now, go up the ranks, and I'm going to make a name for myself in this industry, but I'll probably never be as happy in a job as I was there. I knew that I was leaving that behind. And sure enough, until I started my own business and all of that, I didn't find anything as warm as.
So he was warm,
warm, and he created a
connect.
family. Going
Yeah.
into work was like seeing your best friends.
That's wonderful,
day.
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I know a rugby team just like that.
Yeah. Amazing experience. And some people have had that experience.
Tell me a little bit about your recent book, Punks in Suits. What a great name, that.
Yeah.
Absolutely great name. I was reading on ChatGPT a summary about it. Sounds fascinating. What are the key messages within the book that could help leaders?
So it's a lot of the stuff we've been talking about, but it's basically a rallying cry for leaders to rethink leadership and to jettison all these old-fashioned ideas that we still operate by this rule book.
Control, conquer, divide.
Exactly, and somehow that we're trying to trick people into doing what we want them to do. Please do what I say, but I'm going to trick you into thinking that it was your idea.
Yeah.
So we need to let go of all of that. One of the there's lots of reasons. We're not in the industrial age anymore, and it's not just AI. I mean, AI is the icing on the cake, but we come out of COVID with a mental health crisis and cost of living crisis and geopolitical uncertainty and climate crisis and all sorts of things going on, wars and extremism and all sorts of stuff. Just the old solutions and the old way of leading and the old way of utilizing human talent just not going to work. And we see that because we see companies finding it incredibly difficult to make money. It doesn't matter how many efficiency savings, how lean they cut it, cannot make money. And meanwhile, they're losing people and retention and all of those kind of things. So that is not working. It is obvious. And then the book is really saying, we've got to rethink this. We've got to do the stuff that you and I have been talking about. We've got to rethink the role of the leader in the organization, from the decision maker and the kind of one up front, kind of being doing all the thinking and everyone else is just following blindly behind, to a leader who is just giving away. We talk about empowerment. Empowering people means giving away power. You can't empower and hold on to power. So just giving it away, jettisoning all of that down to people, and then being the creator of the space, the holder of the ethos of the organization, the wise counsel perhaps, but pushing everything that you know and everything you've experienced out into the organization. So that, and that there is a saying that when we're on our deathbed, we'll come face to face with who we could have been in our life. I find that very sobering.
Me too.
Right. When you leave, when you hand in your lanyard and your laptop for the last time and you retire maybe, I think you come face to face with the leader you could have been.
Yeah.
And that could be sobering.
Yeah, 100%.
What do you want to look at in the mirror on that final day? Do you want to think to yourself, I compromised a lot of things that were important to me.
Yeah.
I sold a few people down the river. I wasn't always a good guy. Or do you want to think, listen, I didn't always get it right. It was uncomfortable a lot of the time. Not everyone liked it. But I was really trying to make it better for other people.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
It's a great question, isn't it? Another question's come to me and I'm going to ask it. The stuff that you and I are talking about, the self-awareness, the presence, nervous system regulation, getting in touch with feelings, holding space, don't fix, listen, intimacy, connection, all those leadership qualities that we can't measure.
Yeah.
Even though it's not so easy to measure in a sporting context, apart from results, I do believe I can give the example. I do some consultancy with Wigan Rugby League team. My client for the last 3 years is the head coach. It blows me away, the way he looks at the world and the way he puts people first. It touches me even talking about him. And I believe that last year they won every single trophy in the competition. I believe it's because of the way he leads, which is everything that we are speaking about right here, right now. There's a challenge in the corporate space, isn't there? We can go and me and you could go and give a workshop on this, and then the CEOs will be saying, "All right, I get it. Show me evidence that this can lead to performance improvement. Show me evidence that this can lead to greater productivity, higher margins. You know, I want higher margins because I want to pay my staff more money, but there needs to be a top line here." Do you see it? Do you see the connection between developing a greater range as a leader in an organisation? Because me and you are not saying don't do the structural, process-driven stuff. That's important, but that's the masculine way of leading, isn't it? We need to marry it with the feminine way of leadership. But can we kind of find some evidence that this does actually lead to better performance, so we can kind of bang that drum a little bit harder?
I mean, it is difficult to measure because you don't have a control, right? So you don't know, well, if we could split this company in two and they do it two different ways, what would the result be?
Yeah.
So you can always put it down to, well, that company would have succeeded anyway or would have failed anyway.
Yeah.
But there's lots and lots of evidence around the performance impact of engagement.
There's a lot from Gallup, isn't there?
A lot from Gallup surveys and other surveys of that kind. There's lots of evidence of organizations who have changed things and then become much more successful.
And client happiness as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The customer experience or whatever, and therefore the amount that they're willing to spend, or the loyalty of customers. Lots of data about that. There's immediate savings around sick leave and retention, turnover, staff turnover, incredibly expensive for organizations. And the stop-start nature of onboarding people, so we can't maintain momentum because these people are new and that's making us slow. So there's lots and lots of things to measure. There's also some really interesting data about, so for instance, a lot of organizations, when they're hitting hard times, even though they say our people are our most important asset, they'll make redundancies because I think it's the only option we have is to lose people. There is evidence that organizations that resist making redundancies and take the hit on their bottom line perform better after 5 years than those organizations that made redundancies.
Right.
Perform better in terms of profit and perform better on the stock market. It does not do well for them.
Yeah.
So anything that you can do to kind of really properly invest, even if you don't care about people. I mean, can't force someone to care about people.
Of course.
But there is so much evidence that this makes money. And I have to say, is what you're doing right now working anyway? I remember speaking to an audience once. They were in manufacturing and they were being challenged to change the way they did things. And one of the questions was, well, what if we change things and it means that we're over budget and late on delivery? And I said, well, my understanding is you're already over budget and late on delivery. So what exactly do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Like what you're doing, how is it going this way? Because it's not working, is it? So maybe there's nothing to lose by trying something else.
Yeah. Great. So the information's coming through.
Yeah.
I remember reading some research from Gallup actually about the importance of employee happiness as well and performance. So there's a lot of stuff out there for a look, isn't there?
So much. I mean, to be honest, if a leader is still thinking, but where's the evidence?
Yeah.
They are intentionally ignoring the evidence.
Yeah, and tell that leader go and speak to some rugby teams,
Exactly. And you can look at the world of sport.
Yeah.
And see how it's impacting performance. And you can see what happens to athletes who have one type of coach versus a different type of coach. One that is all stick, and the other one that cares about their mental health. What you sometimes see is a performance dip initially.
Yeah.
As the athlete puts it all back together or is exposed and feels more vulnerable. But then you get an uplift that you never would have got without that temporary dip. And you see that in companies too as well, where sometimes the productivity is reduced in the short term, but then it exceeds anything that would have been possible just by tweaking.
Yeah, from my perspective, the evolution of the performance edge in professional rugby has been quite interesting. There's been different phases. If we do that, we get performance edge. If we do that, and now we're definitely at a time where teams realise that if it's a men's sport, the brotherhood, or if it was women's rugby, the sisterhood, the development of that is where the performance edge is currently at. The culture of the team.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes you have to break. So, we were talking about this. I like lifting weights. And of course, when you lift weights, you tear muscle. That's the whole point. Then you recover. You take a recovery day. And the muscle rebuilds bigger. And then you rip it again. And then you build it bigger. You need to break it. You need to allow it to recover. And then it comes back better. And I think that is, if people don't connect with the emotional reasons to do this, the physical truth is sometimes you just got to break a thing. You got to give it time to recover and rebuild, and then it's better than before.
Yeah. Great words. Final question for you, fun question to finish. Imagine your life, the whole of your life in leadership is a blockbuster movie.
Ha!
And we're up to this point right now. And there's 20 minutes left in the movie, and the audience are at the cinema on the edge of the seats rooting for you, and then they've got an idea of what they want you to do next in your life, and some of them are screaming at the screen saying, do it, do that, don't do that, do that. What are they saying to you? What are they telling you about the next stage of your life? Where do they want you to go with it? What's next for Blaire?
Well, I have plans. And I think, I don't know if this would make a great movie, but I think what we have right now is we take care of our brain a bit and we take care of our heart a bit, but we don't take care of our body. And I think that bringing those three things together is crucial. And I think if someone could, I've been on a journey of my own health for the last 2 or 3 years. And as people have watched that, I know that it has inspired some people to start doing that themselves, because they've thought, gosh, if Blaire, who's like the worst person can do that, then maybe I can too. And I think, if people are watching me in a movie, then they're saying, go for it, inspire more people, get more people out there, kind of overcoming their fears and embracing the connection between their brain, which is incredible, their heart, which is so powerful, and their body, which is tying everything together, and make it possible for other people to do the same.
Wonderful. That would be a great ending to the movie. I'm already visualizing how your movie transitions into an animation, and there's a body, there's a heart, there's a brain, and they're kind of dancing with each other and becoming one.
I love that.
And everybody's clapping.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, thanks for your time.
My pleasure. I love that.
We've got to do a podcast too, because there's just too much to speak about.
There is.
And we can maybe zone in on a specific aspect of leadership next time. But thanks for making the journey here.
That was great.
And I look forward to the next podcast.
Me too.
And where can my audience find you if they want to find more information about you?
Yeah. So I love LinkedIn, even though, something weird is happening on LinkedIn at the moment with the algorithm. Anyone who's on LinkedIn is like, what's going on? But I do still love LinkedIn, so you can find me there.
Yeah.
My website is thatpeoplething.com.
Wonderful.
And I'd love to hear from anyone. So
Great.
Any feedback, any thoughts about what they're taking away from this would be great.
Wonderful. And your YouTube channel's pretty impressive too, right?
Yeah, I've got YouTube, and I even have a couple of Instagram accounts. I'm everywhere. If you Google Blaire Palmer, I'm the first 2 or 3 pages. So yeah.
We love that. We love that. Well, thanks again, and safe journey home.
Thank you. Thanks, Craig.
So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I will see you on